Hello and welcome back to the School for Writers podcast. I'm really excited today because we have on a friend and colleague of mine named Jincey Lumpkin. Now, Jincey and I met 10 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. We were both in the porn industry. I was writing about porn. I'd done my law school thesis on pornography, and Jincey was starting this radical, luxurious lesbian porn movement. And it was amazing and wonderful. And I was like, I want to talk to you. I want to interview you. I am so in love with the luxury and the femme fatale and this amazingness that is Jincey Lumpkin. Fast forward a decade, 2 decades now, and we are both writers. And that's what we connected with in that very first call that we had years ago, the times that we spent together in New York City. We connected over the power of the written word to change the world and the power of the stories that we tell to change the world, to create worlds, and to create a business. Jincey Lumpkin is one of those people who's just kept this wonderful, beautiful brand for herself throughout of it. And all of it includes luxury and making money and thriving as a writer. We are about to have an amazing conversation, not just about her new book, Mermaid in Venice, but you're also going to hear about how do you plot out a book? How do you plot a book so well that you can write it in 6 months? How do you self-publish with the luxury of traditional publishing? How do you make sure that your grammar is right? How do you bust out a series of books? How do you actually make money in this world of writing? Jincey is a thought leader when it comes to women in culture. She's given an infamous TEDx talk called All Robots, the Future of Sex. She's lectured all around the world at summits devoted to business, creativity, and writing. She's been profiled in Dateline, NBC, Vice, GQ. I did the Vice magazine, one of the Vice magazine ones, profiles on her in the past. She's been in Out magazines listed as the Out 100. She is a powerhouse that is now bringing that power of storytelling and business and creativity and writing to writing and to all of you to help you find your own personal power when it comes to building a business around this creative world that we love of storytelling. This is both inspirational and educational. So let's go ahead and just dive right into my wonderfully helpful conversation and inspiring conversation with Jincey Lumpkin. Hey listeners, you're about to hear from Jincey Lumpkin, and we're going to break down some of the business aspect, the logistical parts of being a writer. But one of the things that Jincey says, and I 100% agree with, that writers, they got to write. If you are struggling to sit your butt in that chair and write, the one thing you have to do as a writer, I got something for you. It's called my Write More Challenge. In just 10 minutes a day for 10 days, I'm going to help you create the mental and physical space in your life that you need to write. I'm going to help you find your accountability dream team, and I'm going to help you jumpstart that writing routine of yours that you long to have. Because the way to become a published author is to sit your butt in that chair and write. That is the only way to make writing work for you, is to actually do the darn thing. So if you're struggling to write, or if you just need a little kickstart in your writing routine, head to writemorechallenge.com. And for 10 minutes a day, for the next 10 days, I'm going to help you jumpstart your writing routine. Once again, that's writemorechallenge.com. And of course, we got that link for you down in the show notes. Welcome to the School for Writers podcast, Jincey. I am so excited to reconnect with you and super excited to talk about your new book, Mermaid in Venice. I just did your formal intro. You want to tell us all who you are, how you exist in this world, what do you create and put out in it?
Absolutely. So I'm Jincey Lumpkin, as you well know. We've known each other for a long time now. I'm a writer and a creative director in the luxury beauty space. So I'm about to release my first novel. It's coming out next week, and it's called Mermaid of Venice. And
it's out now, actually. People who are
listening. Oh, yes, it's out now, guys.
It's out now. It came out March 15th. We're doing this a couple weeks early, but it's out now, so you can go get it.
It is about a very rich, very glamorous mermaid who kills men all over Europe.
And can I just say how much I love that? Like, it's about a very rich, very glamorous mermaid who kills men all over Europe. Like, I love it. Mermaid in Venice. It definitely caught me immediately from the cover, from the premise. And as I was reading, I was just like, how is this gonna end? Oh my gosh, it's definitely a page turner. Well, I had it
Yeah.
on my Nook, so it was a page tapper, but
Right,
it's
right, right.
definitely it's great. So tell me a little bit more about you. I interrupted you because I got so excited, but tell me a
No
little bit
worries,
more
of course.
about
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
in this world and how this book came to pass.
Yes, me in this world. Gosh, I mean, as you know, because we've known each other for a long time, I've had quite a career trajectory. So this is like another iteration, I think, of myself throughout the years. So I started out as an attorney and then opened my own porn production company. So I did that for a number of years and then transitioned into the beauty industry after that. And so now I'm, opening up this whole new life for myself as a writer. So I'm self publishing this work. And this is the first in a series of 6 books about the same character, Gia Aquaviva. And in terms of what I put into the world, I mean, I guess my aesthetic is always powerful woman, and it's sexy. And I don't know. I just, I guess my goal in life is really just to bring people escape and joy and entertain them. That's always what I'm going for, whatever it is that I'm doing.
I love that. Powerful, sexy, luxurious. That definitely, when I think of your brand, I think of that like powerful, sexy, luxurious. I think of when we used to call you the Hugh Hefner of porn. Like your porn was
Yes,
always so
yes, yes.
luxurious, so amazing.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated having that as a queer person, having lesbian porn and queer
Yeah.
porn that was luxurious. And not that I don't love the like gritty versions
Yeah.
as well, but I
Same,
love that
same,
like
same.
powerful, sexy, like power femme is what I
Yeah,
think of. That's
exactly.
what I think of.
Power, high fem, power vibes.
High femme, power femme, boss babe vibes. I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everybody when they come on this podcast, and that's why writing?
Hmm. Writing is truly, truly, truly my passion above and beyond anything. So I've done lots of things in my career, but the thread through has always been writing. And of everything that I've done my entire life, writing's been the thing that I've always been most confident in. Um, I wrote even when I was little. My mom saved all the scraps of paper for me growing up. So I found something recently when I was cleaning out her house on, getting ready to move to Portugal. And she'd saved it in this little folder called like Jincey fifth grade or something. And the teacher had us fill out a little questionnaire. And one of them was like, "Do you work?" And I was like, "Yes, every day for 2 hours at my desk." And, I was always, even as a kid, writing little stories. And I produced a newspaper for the family. So I would write breaking news, like the dog got out or whatever, pass that
I
out,
love
go to my
that so
sister's room,
much.
my brother's room, my parents' room. Once I wrote this story about my dad's barber dying and he gave it to the barber. Barber didn't like that at all.
Oh, I was like, wait, that's so sweet. But then the barber wasn't dead.
No, no, he was definitely alive. I killed him off, killed him off. I was starting even then.
I was gonna say that
Uh-huh.
actually, for those of you who have not yet read Mermaid and Feminist, that pays. That's a good. Yeah, I like that. It started early.
It did. And I don't know, my mom had always encouraged me to write. Like she was really, really, really in favor of that. And she wasn't in favor of a lot of the choices that I made career wise. So she was not like remotely happy when I left law to go be a lesbian porn producer. Uh, I mean, kind of understandable, but at the same time, she really didn't come around to that until probably like I was on like Dateline, I think. And then she was like, "Oh, my daughter's on television." So yeah, she was always, she had this vision of me like coming down to Florida, like after she died and keeping the house and writing there and whatever. And that's actually what happened. So when she passed away in 2019, I kept the house. And then, after the pandemic started, that was actually what really prompted this book. I went down there for a couple months and worked on it. And I know I felt her all around me, just so happy and proud of me, So
Mhm.
that's been cool. And then I wrote this blog post too about the fact that we went to this psychic in Casadega, Florida one time, and she was like, you're a writer. Your name is going to be known in a book. And I think I was like 24 or something. I was like, okay, lady, whatever. But it just stuck with me throughout the years. And I just kept thinking like, oh, what would that book be? And I was working with a writing partner for a long time, for about 5 years, on a fantasy series. And that ended very badly. And that was really painful. And it was a while before I wrote again. And, I think I'm kind of going all over the place here, but, I also think I was really scared when I was, transitioning into the beauty industry, that no one would hire me. And when it came to, I sat down and I really like thought about it, because I had, taken a couple of years off. I sold my company and I was able to like work on the other project for a while. And then when it was time for me to go back to, earning money again, I was like, well, shit, what can I do? I haven't worked in an office since I was like forever. Like, is anyone going to hire me? Can I even work in an office? Can I wake up and, and be there at 9 o'clock? What would I do? And I just started thinking back on like, what's my skill set? And I really landed back again at writing. And so that's what I did. I just said, okay, cool. So writer's gonna write. And I carved out a niche for myself as a copywriter in luxury beauty.
I wrote down writer's gonna write. Like,
Yeah.
I need to get that on a t-shirt, like writer's gonna write. Yeah. There's so much goodness in that. And I want to delve into so many of the questions that I have for you, but what you were just talking about with your mom and feeling her around you is actually the thing that's like calling to me. So I talk a lot about muses and not understanding where creativity even comes from, where these ideas come from. And one of the things that I talk a lot about is our ancestors. I really do feel my ancestors, my brother has passed, my grandparents, friends sitting with me and telling me my latest book, I swear to God, Chris Farley is hanging out and like giving me bits for it. And I just want to know how that feels to you when you feel like somebody is like either feeding you inspiration or cheering you on. How does that feel to you?
I mean, specifically with my mom, especially right after she passed, like I physically felt her around me, and, I could smell her perfume. And she was like fucking with my phone a lot and like turning music on and, stuff like that, like oldies or whatever, or sending weird text messages from like random numbers. And then, I think as time went by, it's more, I get visitations and dreams. And I think too, what I feel is, I don't know, she kind of came into me, and I understand her so much better now that she's gone. And I don't know, I have so much more compassion for her too. We really struggled a lot with our relationship when she was alive. And I now realize, like, if she could have done a better job, she would have done a better job. She just could not. And so I think, she infused me with all of the things that she wanted to accomplish herself, and like the strength. I don't know. I like sucked it up, inside of me. And so I think that that's where it is. It's like when I feel, like yesterday I had a really hard day, and I don't know, I just was struggling, and I was like, nothing's working, and I'm marketing the book, and it's so hard, as you know. Like, I had no idea how hard it is to sell books. Like, you have to hustle for every single copy sold. And, you have to really, I'm basically building up again from scratch, and that's can be really frustrating sometimes. So I was struggling with it a lot yesterday, but I just, if there was anything that she was, it was like, she really had a grit and determination and ambition. And so those things were passed on to me. So in days that I feel like I just can't do it anymore, and I want to, like, I can't say I want to throw in the towel because I'm so committed to it now, but it's sort of like you have that instinct regardless. Like, I just think about her, and it gives me that extra push to keep going, like, okay, finish a blog post, send another email, do that. And I feel her strength coming to me, and I light candles for her a lot, and I ask for her help all the time too. I'm like, listen, get me another gig. Okay. Like
Come on,
a
Ma.
little extra
Step up,
cash my
Ma.
way. Yeah. And they always come through.
I love that. Oh, I love that so much because I resonate with that so much. But I also love that
Yeah.
that you're able to have that relationship with your mother now in a way that you wouldn't have in the past, and that
Yeah.
has fueled your writing. So you touched on it a little bit, but so your mother passed, and in 2019 you were in Florida, and then it sounds to me from the book, from the preface of the book or the acknowledgement
Yeah.
of the book, that you were in Italy during the pandemic. Like,
No.
the,
So,
tell
yeah.
me where you are in the world, because I
Okay.
know you as my like high-powered lesbian porn friend that lives in New York
Yeah.
City. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. Yeah.
now you're not. And that's amazing because I was a different person back then when we met as well. For those who don't know, I wrote about pornography. I did my law school thesis paper on pornography. And so that's how I met Jincey. But I want to know how you ended up. I mean, you're in Portugal right now. So where
Mm-hmm.
in the world are you and what are you doing in that world? And it sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're kind of living that fantasy that a lot of the people that I have that come to me of like the traveling writer. And
Yeah.
so tell us about that fantasy and if that fantasy is even real.
Yeah. So my wife and I came to Portugal. We moved to Portugal last October, so October 2020. Um, I actually wrote the book starting in May of 2020. Yeah, and I finished it like September of 2020. So what happened in April of 2020 was that I was still in New York at the time. I was working in advertising. I had gotten a job, I think the latter part of 2019. Really great job with an advertising company. And then I got fired from that job. And that was a blessing in disguise because I got fired at the same time that I got COVID, like basically within days of each other. So I was sick the entire month of April with COVID, just knocked out, like in the bed or on the couch, like could barely move, hardly take a shower. All of the COVID stuff. I was lucky that it wasn't worse. My wife and I were sick at the same time. And yeah, if you remember, everybody shut down at the same time, like the world was just on pause. And I saw this video of the clear water in the canals in Venice, and it triggered this memory that I had had from years ago where I had this dream about this, like, I was this woman and she just murdered her lover, and she was in this like silk, emerald silk dress, like slip dress, and she hopped in the canal and became a mermaid, and she was swimming away, and she was going to go to another European city and kill another lover. And I've definitely always had a fascination with serial killers for sure, but I had never had the experience of like what it might feel like to kill someone. Thank God, obviously, because I'm not a killer. But it definitely sparked my imagination, and I wrote it down in my book because I keep a book of ideas, and just forgot about it for years. And so when I saw that image in the canal, I was like, oh right, I have that dream. And I couldn't sleep one night because I was on this really weird sleep schedule from COVID, had horrible insomnia. And then one night I was just like, okay, right, I have that story. All right, what would the character be like, and how would the story be? And I've made this commitment to myself that I don't start anything like a story or a book unless I know how it's going to end. Like,
Mm.
that's the deal that I get in with myself going forward, because I've gotten myself stuck in several projects and it makes it very difficult to, if not impossible, to finish them. And so I started thinking about that, like, okay, well, how could it end? And working my way backward from that. And I work with a really specific plot structure when I write. So I use the W plot structure, and then I transfer that onto the wall. And I always start with 40 chapters. So I was like, okay, W plot structure wise, like what would be the high and low points? And I kind of had it plotted out a little bit that night, really like the bones of it. So I woke up the next day and I was really excited about it. And then, yeah, I started thinking like, okay, actually, I feel like the story's not done. And then by the end of that day, I had like the high and low points of 6 books plotted out. So I was like, shit. And I couldn't, I had planned honestly to take time off because I was so sick. And then I just was I had really couple really stressful jobs back to back. and like kind of I was a little like traumatized from work. So I just wanted to take a little bit of time off and rest and relax, but I just couldn't. The book was calling to me too hard. I had to do it. And I'm glad that I did because I'm sure you know how it feels when like I said, I plot a lot. I don't plot the whole thing. It's not possible for me to do that, but I do put the notes up and kind of follow the structure. When you get into it and you're sailing along, it's like the most exhilarating feeling in the world. And I don't know, I had been a bit lost before that. And I had been confused, I think, about what I really wanted to do with my life. And I thought advertising would be the thing. And then I had that job and just been really disappointed with it. And I was like, no, 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 no. Writing. This is what feels good for you. I love it so much. Like it's just when I'm writing and I'm in the world of it, whether I'm plotting or or actually writing the words or editing or whatever part of the process it is that I'm doing. The marketing is harder, although I do enjoy that. It's just a different part of the brain.
It's a whole different world.
Yeah, I get so lost in it and I love it so much. And to answer your question about quote unquote the fantasy life, I mean, we're in the middle of a lockdown right now in Portugal, so that is difficult. But I have specifically sought out to structure my life in a way that makes it work for me. So I work remotely and I support myself doing stuff in the luxury beauty world. So I just wrapped up a job with JLo, doing her skincare line, doing digital ads for her. And I just started with a new client last week. So yeah, I mean, with the cost of living here, I would say that's, if anybody's looking for that, we have an apartment that's like, I don't know, 850 euros and overlooks the Atlantic Ocean. So coming from New York, like that was very affordable. And, I don't even have to work full time to make this work for me. The other thing that I think is really important is I still make money from the porn business. Like I still bring in at least like $1,500 every month from that. So I always encourage writers too. I do a lot of like writing rooms on Clubhouse. And I'm always like, think about multiple streams of income. Like that's the key. And I had no idea when I was doing it, no idea that it was going to continue to pay out, royalties and dividends years down the road, but it does. And it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
All that money helps.
I love that you said that because I think I hear so many people talk about wanting to just write a book and get the big book deal, and then they'll be set and they'll have all these like book sales. And
False.
I know New York Times best-selling authors who can't pay their bills off book sales. You have to build something else around it. These big authors that you see, they're making money from their speaking, or they're making money from, the movie deal that comes with a book deal. Like you have to think of it as more than just one book. If you want to pay your bills in it. That could be a series. The people I do know that pay their bills off book sales, they bust out books. The best way to sell your first book is to write the second. So series help, but you have to think of it in the way that an accountant, or I also think, like, if I was running a pizza shop, I wouldn't have expect one pizza to pay all of my bills. Unless that pizza was the best pizza in the whole wide world, like one type of pizza is not going to pay my bills. And if it did, I'd have to sell a lot of that one kind of pizza. So I love that you brought that up. I also love a lot of what you said. But I want you to explain, for people who might not know, what that W plot structure looks like to you and what it means to 40 chapters. Because while I absolutely want to talk about your book, this is also a school for writers. So I would love to know a little bit more about how that structure works for you, that W plot structure.
Absolutely. I think it's great. Definitely Google it. So it's been around for forever, since like ancient Greece. And it basically gives you the structure of the book. So essentially, you start out at the top with your inciting incident, and then you're going to have falling action. So things that happen really quickly. This helps a lot with pacing until you get to your first turning point, which is going to be the end of the first act. And then you go up the W, that's rising action. So there's going to be a lot of tension building. And then in the middle of the W is what's called the pop moment. So that's like the shit hits the fan and a lot of things are going on. Then you're going to have falling action again on the other side of the W. You get to your second turning point here. So that's like another twist in the plot. And then you're rounding up for your last act, which is going to be rising action again. And so there's, again, a lot of tension up to whatever, you know, whether you're finishing your book and it's a one thing, you're going to have your conclusion, your climax, and your conclusion. For me, I'm writing a series, so I'm always ending on cliffhangers. And so the other thing about the W plot structure is it gives you, it's a specific length. So everything is always the same. That's why I start with 40 chapters. Act 1 and Act 3 are going to be the same length, and Act 2 is the same length as those other two combined. So that keeps it really balanced, and you're not struggling. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like the back end of Act 2 is always a struggle, just because you're running out. You don't have everywhere to go that you did when you started the book. So your choices for your characters are limited, and you're coming up, because I'm starting knowing what the ending is, and you know where you have to be. So you have to like get them there in a way that's expeditious, but not too expeditious. And you have to make sure that you're like, you know, still structuring things in a way that it's building tension. So that can be really tough, but I've developed strategies to help me make that a little bit easier. And so the way that I get that from the W plot structure, from just those plot points to the wall, is I know, again, that they're the same length. So you have Act 1, Act 2, which is split in 2 basically, and then Act 3. So then I will take 10 chapters. I guess I could show you. Let me see, because we're on YouTube, right?
We have YouTube as well as the podcast.
Hi guys, sorry,
Hi.
Podcast, sorry, but we're
Podcast,
looking at the wall here.
If you want to see. Oh, that's great. I love that you can show the actual physicality of this.
Yeah, and it's really great. So I basically do one sticky note per chapter, and it is a great way to track. I do a lot of like date-based plotting, so it's happening at a certain time. So I'll say like, okay, September 7th, this is happening. Put like overview bullet points of what's happening in the scene. This is A plot, B plot, C plot. And it gives you like a nice bird's eye view when you're sitting at your desk. You know, you can kind of look up and be like, oh shit, what's happening? And
where am I going?
It's a great way to be able to string pieces together. It's really just like, you know, like stringing pearls together, right? And you're just like hoping. Sometimes when I get stuck, I realize that I just can't write the next scene. So I'll skip ahead to something that's really exciting for me. And then I'll come back, circle back. And that's usually really helpful and sticking me.
I love that you said that, because when people in my programs are stuck, I'm like, write a sex scene, write a food scene, write about them like having a fight, because it's the exciting moments that keep you excited about the book. So when somebody has ever lost and they're like struggling, I'm like, just write a sex scene, write a fight scene, write a food scene, write a scene that's exciting you. You don't have to write it in order when you have that. So I love that you explained that W structure. How does that W structure play into, you're doing a 6-book series, which I'm really excited about, because I was reading and I was like, wait, what is happening? Where is this thing? Am I going to Senegal? Like, what is happening? Tell me everything. And so I would love to know, how do you plot? If that's how you plot individual books, do you also do that W structure for the series? How do you plot out the series?
Each book will be its own W. Okay. So, you know, I know that, just because I feel like I'm learning that it's going to have a rhythm, and it's different for me because I'm now writing book 2. So tonally, there are things that are very similar, but it's also like even crazier than the first one, and like funnier in a way, but like also surreal and like really sinister in a different kind of way. So I think, you know, it can't be, that's across the board on the plot. Like it can't be at an extremely high level of intensity the whole time. You have to infuse humor, I think. And otherwise it's just so like monotone. And what is unifying across the series is, of course, the plot structures continue. So the plot threads continue. So, you know, you still are having the same sort of like a plot. It's just like the players may change.
I love that. And you said that you wrote this first one in 6 months. So that sounds like, right?
Yeah.
6 months?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love
I
that. And
think maybe like five. Yeah. Five, 4, 5, 6, something like that. Yeah.
I think that people try to not have any structure because they see a structure as limiting. I see people who like don't want to write within genre because I don't want to choose,
Hmm.
and they see it as limiting, but I see it as kind of scaffolding. Like you just showed,
Yeah.
you build on it. I think of this fame. There's a couple famous quotes that are all about how the sonnet, this really really strong, structured, really strictly structured poem, has created like beauty beyond compare, because
Yeah.
when you're working within that realm, you can it's like a scaffolding on which to build. So you're not just
Yeah.
trying to do everything at once. So I love that you have your own scaffolding, including post-its on the wall. I have in my
Yeah.
hallway this huge plotting structure that my sister and my nieces that I live with, they're like, "Can we put up stuff on there?" I'm like, "No, that is my wall to plot
Yeah.
books." And they complain when I don't have anything up there. So that's a good sign for me when I need to start writing again, is when they're like, "Hey, it's empty. You gonna put anything on there?" Um, so tell me a little bit about what it is to set a book in a foreign country. Did you go to, I mean, you're in a pandemic, you're
Mm.
setting it in a different place. We have this idea that if we're going to not set it somewhere we know, we have to go there. But I
Hmm.
don't, did you go to Italy? I'm during
I
this
had
time?
been to Venice. Well, I went as a child and then I went with my now wife in like 2018, I think, for 6 days, which is like way too long to be in Venice. I don't
Yeah,
actually like, love Venice, believe
I
it or
would
not,
agree. I
considering
would
I
agree.
wrote a book on it.
I
It's
was gonna
definitely
ask
like
you, like,
a,
is Venice a special place for you? It works
oh,
really well, though. Like, it would be a really great place for a mermaid to live.
100%. No, I mean, I definitely got a good overview of it when I was there for the 6 days that I was there, but I just research really helps. So, for example, um, the place where she hides the bodies is a hotel where I had lunch with my wife many, many times. And so I just, I thought about that. And then I charted the path on Google Maps to like where she would live, and I kind of like zoomed in and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is the name of this canal because all the canals there are named like streets. And I'm like, okay, right, right, right. So she turns here and then she turns here. So I was like really plotting it on the map. And I do a lot of just, I mean, I'll put together like a lot of people now, I'll put together Pinterest boards with um, places where, her houses, because she has multiple houses, or like what it looks like, or the room, just I can kind of describe it. And so I don't know. I think I personally don't think it's necessary to totally travel there. I also, I love Neil Gaiman, and I was watching his masterclass recently, and he was talking about places and how you can, especially this is fantasy, right? So you can take a place and then you can superimpose other things that on top of it. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that I wrote as a little kid the story about my dad's barber and killing him off. And I actually put that barber shop in Venice. So he had all of this like vintage Coca-Cola memorabilia and all over the place. So I just thought that was like really special. And I had heard of this bookstore in Venice and like saw it online with all these bathtubs with books in it. And so I was like, oh, that's cute. But what if we do that at the barber shop? So, I kind of married all of those things to just give it like whimsy. And ultimately, all that it's like, it's mine until it's not mine. So we're in a weird phase because it doesn't belong to me anymore. It's out there in the world. But while I'm building it, like I can just do whatever I want to do with it. And that's so exciting and fun. That's one of the most fun parts is inventing everything and then describing it in the way that's most fun for you.
I loved the barbershop. The barbershop, just the concepts of the barbershop, all the stuff. So I love that it comes from this childhood of yours, and this
Mm-hmm.
childhood story even like plays into it. That makes me so happy because the barbershop is one of my favorite places in the book. And the other places I feel like I would be giving away things, so I'm not going to
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about them
yeah,
online, but I do,
yeah.
there's like there's very cool places. In this book, it's a really great place. It's really great space. I feel like I'm there. I feel like I am exploring. I feel like I'm underwater. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to know what it felt like to write about murder. So I have an
Yeah.
assassins book that I wrote, and I felt like while I was writing that book, I thought of ways to kill people that kind of
Mm,
concerned me. So what is
yeah.
it to like inhabit the world of somebody who murders people?
Um, I mean, I think I'm channeling a lot of like rage and trauma into the writing. So I'm a sexual abuse survivor. And, luckily, like I have never perpetrated anything like that, but it's, bad things have happened to me. And so I take that, and I think I also have for a long time tried to just make sense of why people would do the things that they do. It never has made sense to me. And so I just try to like tap into the idea of like, okay, I'm a sociopath or I'm a psychopath, and this is fine because it's something I want to do, you know? And when you put it with that lens in the world, like nothing is off limits anymore. And I'm also able to infuse really I have horrible nightmares, sometimes night terrors. And so those will definitely also go in. So it's just like a way for me to like exercise all the um I think all of the like darkness that comes in that's like not part flows through me, I guess. That isn't part of me. It's just like things that happen to me. And I'm also just I've always been fascinated with serial killers. So one thing that's really interesting to me, for example, like Ted Bundy, or I don't know, I forgot what I want to call him BTQ killer. I can't remember if that's right, but
We're gonna call
blind
you
torture
killer.
kill. I think
Yeah.
it's BKT or something like that. Anyway, the fact that they are able to have families, that they can go out and do these horrible things and still come home to like a wife and kids and go to somebody's kindergarten play. Like that's just bonkers to me. But it happens. And so, you just have to kind of get into that mindset. And in terms of the physicality of writing it, I mean, it's not easy. So I definitely did research into female serial killers. And one thing that is always so interesting to me is until people start to read the book, they're like, oh, why does she kill the men? Like, is she, like trying to stay young or whatever? And I'm like, no, because she's turned on by it. And they're like, no, that's not a thing. I'm like, definitely a thing. Like men do it. Like women can kill for the same reasons men do.
That's
But it's
equality
really,
right there. That's the
it's really
feminist.
difficult for people to understand that, And
Yeah.
I kind of get it from like a fantasy perspective, but nope, she's fully doing it just because it's sexual.
I actually loved that about this because I thought at first, because she looks younger than her age, that she was
Hmm.
killing people and that was like a thing that she had to do. And I kind of loved that I eventually found out, no, she just murders people. And I was like, okay,
Hmm.
cool. I'm actually down for this. Like, I'm down
Yeah.
to see where this goes. I'm down. It felt like a refreshing take on a trope that I'd seen before. It's like, no, this is
Yeah.
actually a serial killer. It's
Yep.
not a part of who she is. It's not the fantasy. I actually, and I love that you're able to approach a serial killer within a fantasy world that's also kind of real, and that she's
Hmm.
able to go through those things. I mean, you talked about you were traumatized from work, but you found the joy in this book. You were
Yep.
traumatized from sexual abuse, you found that joy. You're traumatized from terror, you found the joy in the book, and you found a place to put
Yep.
it. And I think
Yep.
that encompasses so much, both the beauty of writing and the beauty of this book itself.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. What was your favorite part of writing A Mermaid in Venice? Like, it's such a fun book, and we've talked about, the trauma and stuff. I wanna know, where was the joy?
Well, Vittoria was the best. So
Victoria.
he definitely brings the humor. So he's the barber and her like surrogate father. And I always loved writing the chapters with him. And I don't like at all think of myself as a funny person. I really don't. Like I have a silly side, but like I never thought that I could write anything funny, to be honest. I really don't. So I was really surprised that really pleasantly surprised that like I was able to get this guy that was like, silly, goofy and sweet and like kind of guilt trippy, and this like 82-year-old, Italian barber with scoliosis. So I really loved him, and I think he's very central to the plot in a way, because I don't want to give away too much, but he's like happening in multiple time periods. And so he has a really strong connection to Gia and her family, and I feel like that grounds it in reality. And he's the person that you see the best of Gia with him.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because you were like, he grounds her in reality. And as you were saying that, I was like, he brings out your sympathy for her, like your
Yeah.
love of her. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of rooting so many male characters post Tony Soprano, post Breaking Bad, get to be the bad guy you're rooting for. And I
Yeah.
feel like Gia is like, gets to be the good guy, the bad gal that you're rooting for,
Yeah,
the bad woman
exactly.
you're rooting for. Like, I don't want her to get caught. I want her to win. I kind of want her to kill again. You kind of want to see where it goes, in the way that I was very, that makes it sound a little psychotic, but the same way that like I wanted to see when Tony Soprano would lose his shit again, when,
Sure.
in this way that we see so many Mad Men, the men get to be
Mm-hmm.
angry and mean and murderous in a way women don't get to. And I love that in this book, and I'm so glad to hear it's a series. In the series, we get to see a woman kind of lose her shit and become murderous.
Yeah, definitely huge anti-hero. And, that's absolutely intentional. And a lot of what I wanted to do is take this idea of like the femme fatale, and many femme fatale stories like the 1941s or even in the 80s, like Body Heat. Um, you see her and she's evil and you're aware of that, but you see her through the male gaze and you never really understand what her motives are besides like money or sex or whatever. And so I wanted to see the inside of her head and like what really motivates her and why she's dark.
I love that. So you said that this book is now out of your hands and out into the world. Tell us
Yes.
what does it feel like to self-publish? Did you have to work through your own stuff? I mean, there's still so much stigma, unfortunately. Like, this is a beautifully written book, and if I
Yeah.
hadn't known it was self-published, I wouldn't know it was self-published, which is a judgment in and of itself as self-publishing. But we have this
Yeah.
stigma against self-publishing. How did you work through that yourself to put out in the world? I know that you were working for a series with like traditional publishers and you wanted to go that
Mm-hmm.
route. And how did it come to pass as something that you decided to self-publish?
Yeah. I mean, I don't give a fuck at all. Like, I just am like, what's going to make me the most money?
Yes. Yes.
And
Can we
so,
embrace that more? We
yeah,
deserve to think of it like a product and think of how we can get that product out into people's hands and how we can make money off of it.
yeah.
Hell
And like,
yes.
no shame on anybody's game, however they want to do it. Like for me, I never cared. It was my writing partner who really wanted a traditional marketing or a traditional publishing deal. I had planned at the time actually to go ahead and start self-publishing even like in 2012. But then we started working together and she was like, no, I want a traditional deal. And I was like, all right, fine. But the fact of the matter is exactly as you alluded to, you know, you just really are not making very much money per book. And for me, I wanted to have control over what the cover looked like. That was really important to me. The release date, the marketing plan, and I honestly just don't want to give away like percentage to people who, maybe don't like deserve it always. So I think with traditional publishing, they really want you to come, they don't want to have risk. They want you to come to the table with like your own platform and with your people. And, they're offering you, their marketing team and their distribution. But to me, it seems these days less and less like a good deal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
it's
mean, it's
like,
a
for
numbers
me,
game. And
purely a decision. Yeah. A business decision.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love, love, love that, because I think so often what gets in our way is making our art too precious. Like, yes, create art when you're writing it, but when you're ready to get it out in the world and you want people to
Mm-hmm.
read it and you want to like make money as a writer, you got to
Yeah.
think about, okay, am I actually going to get a good enough publishing deal that it's going to make up for losing 95% on every, like, you get 95% when you self-publish and you get 5% when you traditionally publish. is a
Mhm.
traditional publisher going to get you enough extra sales to make up that difference? And a majority of the book deals I know, it doesn't. It really, really doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think the people who
So
perpetuate this idea that self-publishing is less than are the same people who want to take that 95%, are like the
yeah.
the gatekeepers. And I am all for, like, I have gone the traditional publishing route. I've gone the self-publishing. For me, it's about what your book needs. And I love that you let your book need to make money. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And when it comes to the marketing, because like I said, it's important to me to be able to control that. Like I I I haven't let for 1 second any kind of stigma come into play at all, because I feel very confident and happy with the book that I wrote. And I know I've done everything that I possibly can to make it a quality product, a very high quality product. And down from the cover to the writing to my editor to like pricing it the way that I priced it. So you do that and you put it out there, and I've just been shouting as loud as I possibly can in fun ways and entertaining ways on social media, um, to get it out there.
Yes. 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 And I really do feel like it's a beautiful book, and you can tell that you put, I mean, yes, you wrote it in that 6-month period, but the cover feels high end. The the writing and editing feels high end. It wasn't like I was reading an error, like a grammar error every other page. And so
Yeah.
I think for people who want to put their own books out there, the way to feel good about putting your own book out there is to actually put a book that you're like proud of and that you've put the effort into, and that okay, once it's out there, like, I did the best I could at that moment, how it was.
Yep.
And then you feel confident. I love that. How does it feel to be marketing something? Are you writing the second book now? Like, do you have to switch your brains between marketing and writing?
Yes, you do have to do both. It is really difficult to do that. And definitely the fact that I have this marketing research helps a lot, because I'm able to do content marketing to Arnold and Beth and deliver entertainment, like bite-sized entertainment that they'll like, without just like constantly being like, buy my book, like a carnival barker. Although I do that as well intermittently between. You just can't do that all the time because people will mute you. So yeah, I mean, today I struggle. Yesterday, like I mentioned, was a really hard day. I think I got too in the weeds on social media and got like too in the metrics about like, oh, enough people haven't liked this post or whatever. Yeah, that will drive you crazy. So you have to just set goals and step back. And when it comes to writing, I'm just now, like today, I wrote a to-do list for myself and I said, like, finish 2 chapters. And I just decided, I just did it basically. I did my like little social media stuff. I went on like a nice walk by the beach, did a TikTok video, came back. I was like, okay, and let's do it. And finished off 1 chapter. And then, like, I'm about 75% of the way through the second chapter for the day. So you just gotta like just do it. I know that's like the worst, most annoying advice ever, but it is just like get in front of the computer, look at the wall, put the words down, get it done.
Yeah.
Picture it in your mind, however, whatever your process is, just like write the words.
I agree with that so much, because I get people being like, tell me the secret to writing. I'm like, right.
Yeah.
That's the secret to writing, is sit your butt in
Hmm.
that chair and write, which is why
Hmm.
I think we could invest millions of dollars into, or hundreds of thousands of dollars into, going to get an MFA and becoming this like literate writer. But the real way to become a writer is just sit your butt in the chair and write. And that's how you get better. You write and read. That's how you get better. And
Yeah.
that's how you get there.
And somebody was telling me, this romance writer that I've been like, kind of um, just networking with over the past couple weeks or whatever. She was telling me that she's using a lot of dictation software right now. So I don't think I could write that way, because it's very, I don't know, the process that I write, it's like very visual, and I'm editing as I'm writing. So I think that would drive me crazy, but I can see how for people who have maybe a very conversational writing style, that would work really well for them. So pro tip.
Right. I love that. I love that dictation software has come such a long way that you actually can start to use that as well. Or like I'll speak into like if I have an idea when I'm out on a walk, which is of course when I
Hmm.
get like all my ideas, I'll speak into my notes app and then send it through Trent and have it transcribed because that helps too. So whatever you do, just keep creating and keep writing, folks. So I have
Exactly.
a couple last questions for you.
Yeah.
One is I would love to know one of the many. You don't have to pick the ultimate one, but what's a book that's changed your life?
Oh gosh, a book that has changed my life. Oh my God, this is so goofy. Oh, the only one that comes to mind is The Celestine Prophecy.
I don't know it. What is the
What? You
Celestine
don't know The
prophecy? I don't
Celestine
know it.
Prophecy?
Apparently, it's
Oh my
not
God.
cheesy enough.
Okay. Well, my mom had me read it when I was in high school. I think it came out then. And it's about like vibrational energy and like synchronicity and connecting with people. And it's a little goofy and new age, but it definitely helped open me up to more spirituality from inside myself and like connecting with people and like listening to signs in the universe and um, trying to find quietness inside my brain so that I can listen to, I don't know, the harmonies to know that I'm going the right direction. So I definitely still, it still stays with me. And it's like, I don't know, it's been integrated into my thought processing in general.
Mm. I love that. I love when books resonate with us. I'll have to check it out. I don't know it, but I'll have to
Mhm.
check it out. I'm excited to check it out.
Embarrassing, cringe, cringe.
I love it. I love it. When people ask me, I was in film school and people used to ask me, what's your favorite movie? And I'd be like, the Santa Claus. It's what I watch when I'm sad. It came out when my dad was in the hospital and I watched it all the time. And they'd look at
Oh,
me like, how do you choose the Santa Claus when you're in film school? I was like, what? It's a good movie. Back off.
yeah.
So I know that. I know that feeling. What is a book that you want to read but not write?
A book. Well, I mean, I wish that I had not written this one and that somebody else had written it so that I could read it. That would be great. Um, but a book that I could read and not write, like my own. What do you mean?
Yeah, so I think about like I would love to read more lesbian mystery, but I don't want to write mystery books.
Oh, I see. I see. I see. Okay. Um, I mean, I really like science fiction and speculative fiction, but I like couldn't I would like to write a sci-fi opera, but I couldn't write like speculative fiction. So I would say anything like that. And I mean, I can also say stuff I don't want to read. Like I definitely don't like YA romance.
No, this is more like what you do want to read. So we'll stick
Okay.
to that.
Okay. Okay.
Perfect. A sci-fi speculative fiction. Love it. And then my last and final question is where can people find you? Where can they get Mermaid in
Mm.
Venice, which I highly suggest reading? Where can they find you to connect with you more?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mermaid of Venice is available on Amazon. It'll be available on the everywhere else this summer. So in June, it'll be up for pre-order, but it'll be on like Kobo, Barnes and Noble, all the other spots. So both print and ebook are on Amazon, and then the audiobook is coming out shortly. It's being recorded as we speak.
Yay.
Yes, very exciting. And in terms of where to find me online, like I'm everywhere in social media. So just Google me, Jincey Lumpkin. You can go to my website, jinceylumpkin.com, and sign up for my email list. I do like exclusive giveaways and content there. And yeah, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, like wherever the peeps are, I am.
I love it. And we'll include some of those links down in the show notes as well to help you find Jincey and your link to Mermaid in Venice, which we're super, super excited about.
Thanks
Well,
so
thank you
much.
again. Any last minute tips or tricks you want to share with people before we say goodbye?
Well, just a huge thank you, first of all, for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. Huge tip. Yes, don't get discouraged and just give it a shot. Like, Google the W plot structure, see if that's something that's interesting to you. If you feel like it doesn't resonate with you, move on, try something else. But yeah, I definitely think it's changed everything since I decided to never start something until I know how it finishes. That's pretty critical for me. So that would be my number one tip for people. If you don't know how it ends, like maybe keep thinking.
Love it. Love it. And also, if you don't know how to end, starts writing it and see if the ending comes out at you
Yep.
as well. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like, make it a journal entry. Start with a journal
Yeah.
entry about the possible
Yeah.
entry. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. We will also have a link to that W plot structure and my whole mini free course on plotting if people are interested in these show notes as well. So you can
Ooh, exciting. Love that.
well, thank you again so much for coming on. Everybody go get yourself Mermaid in Venice. It's a really great read right now when I'm struggling not traveling. I felt like I
Yeah.
got to travel to both Greece and Italy. So if you want to go to Venice, go pick up this book because you will be transported to the canals of Venice. Thank you again,
Oh,
Jincey, for coming on. It is just amazing to reconnect with you, and I'm so excited to help you promote this book because it's a really great book.
thank you so much.
Hey everybody, this week's book rec is coming from none other than the interviewee this week on the podcast, Jincey Lumpkin, and it is her latest novel, A Mermaid in Venice. Now, I had this moment where I was just like, okay, I am 1,000,000% down for this premise that is a gorgeous, luxurious, super mega rich mermaid living in Venice, Italy, who's killing men. I was down for that. I was like, okay, cool, I'm in. You hooked me. I got it. I'm down. But I also I wasn't quite sure. I was like, okay, come on, that's like a lot of hype. I don't know if I'm gonna end up loving it. And about a third of the way through the book, I couldn't put it down. I finished this book in 24 hours. That is how page turning it was for me. Now, we are in the middle of a pandemic right now, and it felt really good to escape to Italy, to Greece, to eat pasta, to swim through the canals of Venice with the mermaid. Yes, it is definitely an escapism book, but it's also kind of really interesting. And don't have me locked away for this, but it's kind of really cool to also get into the mind of a women killer. We see so many anti-heroes in men. It's amazing to get to embrace an anti-hero in a woman. She's a straight up murderer, but she's also a mermaid. I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it. You'd think it wouldn't work, but it does. It works so great in Jincey Lumpkin's book, Mermaid in Venice. If you are a fan of Killing Eve or other similar stories, or if you just want to escape into a really great novel that's eventually going to be a 6-book series so you know you get to just keep living in this world, I highly suggest picking up a copy of Mermaid in Venice by Jincey Lumpkin. Mermaid in Venice came out March 15th. Jincey self-published it herself. Super, super excited. Such a great, luxurious, amazing way to delve into this world, but also support somebody who's trying to make a business as a writer. So go get yourself a copy. It's currently, y'all know I never suggest things on Amazon, but I'm going to say it's currently only available on Amazon till the summer, where it will be available in independent bookstores. So if you want to wait till indie bookstores, I get it, but don't wait too long. Make sure you go and get yourself a copy of Jincey Lumpkin's Mermaid in Venice.